ask a little true. I'd like to know your point of view.
Today, if anyone's there, I was going to talk to you about childhood emotional neglect. What they can create, the problems they can create for us later in life, because we don't really know what normal is. And what's tricky about it especially is that it's not so easy to identify what's wrong. You know, most of us, if we had narcissistic parents, were told not to pay attention to our feelings anyhow. You know, like our feelings is never really downplayed anyway. And so it's hard for us to feel validated. I wasn't a drunk, or my dad wasn't beating me, or, you know, we don't have those things. You feel like you don't deserve to have anything be wrong. This happened to me for years. For years, my life looked really perfect. On the outside, it looked really perfect. You know, it looked like I had 2 parents that never got divorced. I had a brother, and he lived like right across the street, and my grandparents, had lifelong friends, and, you know, all in this kind of small community, and a husband and 2 healthy kids, and it looked like I had just this perfect life. And I was so sad. I was so depressed. And I didn't know why. And I had low expectations for what should be going on in my relationships, because I was trained that way as a child, right? So you know, if I had parents that taught me to disassociate from my feelings, to not feel that my needs weren't legitimate, that I should not bother anyone with my needs, and it really essentially felt that I wasn't really wanted. I had to earn my right to be in a relationship, and so maybe you don't want me, but you're going to need me. I'll make sure you need me. And so I worked myself to the bone, trying to be needed, trying to earn my place, trying to earn those little crumbs of love from emotionally neglectful parents. If you had narcissistic parents, you really didn't have parents, or worse than not having any parents at all. Because by definition, if you just look at the definition of what a narcissist is, you know, someone who can't consider anybody else's needs, somebody doesn't have empathy, doesn't take responsibility, self-focused, and really irritated by having to do anything for anyone else, and, you know, that kind of stuff. Well, that's just the polar opposite of what you need in a parent. You know, parents are, by definition, supposed to care about this child's needs more than their own. Not really so much. I don't think that they really do. Of course, they're always concerned with perceptions. So, you know, narcissists are the ones that really carry on at funerals, and, you know, almost to where it's almost out of proportion, inappropriate. What we get is, if our parents are going to make any kind of emotional gesture towards us, it's with an audience around so that it can be viewed and seen. It's never really just for us. So usually what's missing, a lot of the time, what's missing in our families, in our homes, are the private moments, are the things where the sincere day-to-day questions, you know, how was your day? How are you doing? Could the narcissist in your life, could they really answer questions about you? How much do they know about you? You know, do they know your favorite color? Do they know your favorite food? Do they know, do they know who your best friends are? Do they know, how much about you do they even know? If you're, and I'm talking about, and this is as a kid, as a kid living in the house with them, how much about you did they even know? And, do they really care? I said I was so depressed, but my life looked perfect. Well, then I had a heart attack, right? I had a heart attack. And granted, the husband had things, he had things the ground laid so that he could pull the trigger whenever he wanted to. but this was when he wanted to, and that will be when it is when you're down and out. That's when they'll do it. But for him to be able to get my parents and my brother and everybody to abandon me when I had just literally died. I literally had died and had a near-death experience. It was really a miracle I was alive. And I'm sitting here with the son gone, thinking that, for the 16, 17 years, my family has chosen to not be around me. Now, my husband got a divorce from me. It was bad what he did, but he was getting a divorce from me. So I guess he wouldn't expect to be around me, but my parents followed suit, so it's very strange. But, that's why you're depressed. That's the cognitive dissonance. So my life looked perfect. I didn't know it was wrong. But what was wrong was that this was possible. Somewhere underneath, I knew there was cognitive dissonance. Somewhere I knew that if I needed anything, that if I didn't just keep going, if I didn't just keep doing for everybody and not ever expressing any needs, not ever having any needs of my own, that I would get abandoned. And God forbid something happened where I can't hide it. Something happened where I really cannot hide it and I really, really need their help, really need their support. It didn't matter, and it doesn't matter. Well, one thing is until it is life or death, they will think you're manipulating them. Until it is absolutely life or death, and they can see, they can visibly see that there's something really wrong with you. Anything less than that, let's just like my mom used to joke when we were kids that unless she could see bone or something, she didn't want to be bothered. But there's really a lot of truth, and this was a nurse too, my mother. But there was a lot of truth to that because they don't believe it. They don't believe that there's really anything wrong with you. And this was something that, just because that's the way I was raised, I realized had followed me. That I had this boyfriend before my husband. And he was complaining about pain and not feeling good. And I was being really I wasn't being mean, but I was just kind of not really doing a lot for him or anything. After we went to the ER finally, and the kidney stones. And we had to go through the whole night of kidney stone thing. But I felt so bad. As soon as I found out that he had kidney stones, I felt so guilty that I had been so wimp. And he wasn't a wimpy guy at all. He was totally not, it wasn't like him to be like a hypochondriac at all, so I don't know what I was doing. It was just baggage from the way that I was raised, because there was just no empathy when you were sick, just no empathy when you were sick. So strange that my mother was a nurse, but I've said this in a couple of videos too, that she really enjoyed the kind of nursing that she liked to do was with the sickest patients of all. She liked patients that were unconscious, people she could do the physical work of keeping someone alive that was really, really sick. But she really hated it when she was an office nurse at a doctor's office. Oh, she said it was just the worst. Because, of course, people aren't that sick that are coming to the doctor's office. She liked it a lot better when people were really sick. When they're in the hospital, they're sicker. And then the sicker stuff, even in that, she didn't like pediatrics as much or orthopedics as much. She liked it when it was ICU. She liked ICU the best. So, and also because she didn't have to emotionally engage. No one's making any requests of you when they're in the ICU. But, she really liked to know when people were really, really sick. And the same thing was true with babies. She liked a newborn, because I don't know, it's this thing with manipulation. It's like the babies, their needs are just their needs. But by the time that there's a toddler, she, feels like she's being manipulated, like she's being emotionally manipulated by a toddler. And it's very, very interesting. So yeah, with childhood emotional neglect, there are all these quirky little things that you're going to find you have as an adult that are going to bother you because they're not really how you see yourself. You think of yourself as a compassionate person, you are, but there's a couple of places where you have some kind of weird behaviors, and it's because of the things that you didn't experience, so you don't know how to do it. And that's a lot of it, is that, I didn't experience a lot of babying and a lot of that kind of stuff, and so I don't really know how to do it that well. Sometimes I've learned that if it's not if it's not just like a genuine feeling, a real concern, which then I'm very compelled, you know, if I'm not like, you know, like for my kids or you know, something really worried about them, then of course that's natural. But if it's just, you know, if it's not life or death and they just need some nurturing, that was really a lot harder for me because I had never seen it modeled.